We're in the Thanksgiving season, and I've been spending some time in my sermons and devotions, not just one sermon talking about how we need to learn to rejoice and give thanks, but a series because we need to develop a discipline of giving thanks and rejoicing because the world just keeps coming at us. And if we don't have the discipline of giving thanks, we'll drown in the misery of it. And we've been talking about in that series giving thanks for God's redemption, giving thanks even for trials. But I want to talk some about giving thanks for family today and how we should be there for each other, cheering each other on. Paul talks about how the love of God should filter into us in a way that overflows to the people around us, particularly our family, biological family, spiritual family. And he writes this, "And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God." That's from Philippians chapter 4. Essentially, he's saying, hey, grow in love for each other. Grow in knowledge and insight. I'm praying for you. I am for you. Sometimes it's not so much what we do for other people, but our love that takes some sort of shape that really inspires people to press on. We like to think we can reduce the process of personal growth or encouragement to a science. You just take these steps, you just say these things, and it's going to be all okay. But here's the thing. There's all the difference in the world between the most skilled psychologist in the world helping a client because that success will burnish their reputation. Not saying all psychologists are like that, but there's all the difference in the world in a professional who knows what they're doing, but is doing it for their own purposes, and a parent fumbling around trying to communicate love for their child. One can be done in pride with a selfish end, the other in love for a selfless end, and it matters. And it's read by the one receiving it. We need to take our affection that we have for others and have it take some shape in an encouraging word or a text out of the blue, showing up when you're not expected, so that the other person might know the empowering that love gives. Power to face a crumbling marriage, the troubled child, a toxic work environment, living out the love of God. We pour ourselves out for others that they in turn might have something to pour into other people. We're bound together by the bonds of the Spirit to be there for each other, to empower and inspire each other. But you might ask, where do we get filled up? To a certain extent, we get filled up from others in our family pouring into us, but really we find our ground in the love of God poured out in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. You have resurrection life in you. And if you can't see that, go back to the gospel story. Go back to the words of Jesus himself. This is what he says in John chapter 4. Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." And what's the picture here? Well, we need to think of it like this. You've heard of negative air pressure. An example of it is when there's a storm coming in, high pressure air brings high winds, and the air inside a home or a building is of lower pressure. In a sense, that low pressure in the building begins sucking in the walls of the very building around it. And if that pressure differential between what's outside and what's inside gets too extreme, man, the building just implodes. We have a great deal of emotional and spiritual negative pressure inside the church, inside of us as individuals. we tend to wait to be filled up with things of this life. Some good thing happening. And there are lots of good things that can help fill us up. But we tend to ask the Lord to bless us with a good job, nice salaries, the respect of coworkers, even the affection of our families. Again, in and of themselves, not bad things. But when we've gone without, when we're disappointed, when we're hurt, we retreat inward. We're waiting, expecting something to change. And all the while, that negative pressure builds, sucking in the walls of our hearts and our spirits. Meanwhile, there's this high pressure of the outside world, the challenges of family, a health concern, work, that builds. And it's only a matter of time before something has to give. A husband acts out. A businesswoman takes the edge off with substance abuse. We see it all around us. What can be done to change this all too familiar dynamic? Well, we need to be filled with the water that Christ gives us, the love, the forgiveness, the newness of life, the empowering of his presence, the hope of the resurrection. It raises the air pressure within us and actually overcomes the air pressure of the outside world and begins to flow out like a spring welling out. Hence, Paul writes, grow in knowledge, insight, grow in love. Because that's how you can well up to eternal life, that you can be there for other people. We can empower each other. We can be family, a family that's worth giving thanks over. And I'm praying for that wisdom and that blessing for you. Yes, there are pressures and we have this negative pressure within us, but to be filled with the love of God for you. Do you believe it? And when you do, you can be renewed and that air pressure gets reversed and we can flow out and be a blessing to those around us. This Thanksgiving, give thanks for your Father in heaven, your spiritual family, filling into you, that you in turn might be a blessing to others. Happy Thanksgiving.